Whether you like it or not, you as the man are the one that has to lead things along when you meet a woman out in the world, okay? You can't expect her to lead that conversation, ask you for your phone number, ask you to go out, see what you're doing later. This all lands on you. It is your job as the man to lead the interaction. This is what's called masculine leadership, and it's the fundamental principle of everything that I do with the men that I coach. So today, I want to really dive into this because I had just received a comment on a video that I did the other day from a gentleman who this was on a video I did called How to Extend an Invitation to the Women That You Want to Ask Out. And this particular gentleman had said that he had commented on a different video and shared that he oftentimes travels and will approach women at the hotel lounges or bars that he stays at, strikes up conversations, has a great time, but it's never gone anywhere past that. So this video is meant to clarify what's going on here, because essentially if you don't do that, you're friend zoning yourself. You're keeping yourself as a buddy, as a platonic acquaintance. And if you are interested in a girl romantically, well, it's just simply not going to go anywhere because you're kind of farting around, spinning in circles, never leading and never taking it anywhere beyond just a platonic conversation, okay? And this is something that I run into with a lot of the men that I coach before coaching. They are very passive, and this is a problem that so many men today face. They are taught, or they have been taught, to be very, very passive and to not be assertive, to not be confident, to push things forward, because then again, they will be deemed as quote unquote toxic. But in this particular guy's case, I don't think that's the situation here. Now, he says that I always chat up women for work, but I've not once been able to convert it into dinner or anything else. And he says that it may be unique because he's in a hotel, but I don't know. He also says, I primarily attribute it to the fact that I'm below average in facial attractiveness. I'm good for the conversation, and that's it. And he goes on to say, also, I don't flirt much. I mean, I do a little, but I don't lay it on too thick. Okay, so just by this comment alone, I can really help to diagnose what's going on here, okay? First of all, the fact that he says that he's never been able to convert it to a dinner or anything else. Now, it sounds like he's not even asking or proposing that. I can't quite tell. In this, maybe he has, which is why he says he's never been able to convert it. But if he says that he doesn't flirt too much, just think about this. If you're coming in very dry and businesslike, and again, chances are most of the women that you find alone in hotels are there on business trips. They're already in a masculine mindset. They're in a business mindset. And if you come in and keep things platonic and business-like, without flirting, without making your intentions known from the very beginning that you find them attractive in a romantic way, well, they're just going to stay in that mental space. Okay, again, it's up to you as the man to lead them out of that masculine frame of mind of being at work to more of one of romance. Okay, now this whole thing about facial attractiveness, this to me, 9 times out of 10, this is cope. And, I want to just be completely real with you, because there's so many guys out there who are not attractive. They might be short. They may be fat. They may not have the best facial features. And plus, most men are harder on themselves, on their physical appearance, than how people actually perceive them. Okay, which means you probably look a lot better than you actually think that you are. Okay, now again, I don't have no idea what this gentleman looks like. And if there are things that you can improve, then do so. But saying that it's because of your facial unattractiveness, I would highly doubt that's actually the case. Again, I think this is a little bit of cope, because just in the tone of what you're commenting, I can tell that you're playing it safe. You're not escalating, you're not teasing, you're not flirting, as you admit, right, as you admit yourself. And if you're not converting, that simply means, A, you're not asking, because if you're doing this every time you're traveling, then just from a mathematical standpoint, there should be at least one conversion in there, right? But A, you're not asking. B, you're not creating an environment that is conducive to romance, right? So these are the things that you as men have to understand. Just because you talk to a woman and just because she's receptive to you speaking to her doesn't mean that automatically that she's like interested in you in a romantic way. You have to lead it. This is masculine leadership. At the end of the day, everything starts and it ends with you, the man. You can't count on her to do the work for you, even if you think the conversation's going really, really well. You can't strike up a conversation and think your work is done. Absolutely not. Because it's somebody who's a stranger, because it's you approaching her, you have to take on the brunt of the work to get that conversation going, to build the rapport, to banter, to flirt, to tease, whatever it happens to be, using the things that I've shared in countless videos, or, if you've happened to have worked with me as a coach, if you have and you still can't figure it out, then we got major problems, because most of the, all the guys that I work with, they understand this and execute it, because I go through that with a fine tooth comb on exactly how to do it for them. But to me, if you're not leading it and taking those chances of flirting, escalating, it should be very, very simple. So for example, I went out. I was on a road trip, stayed at a hotel. This wasn't at the hotel, but it was at a nearby little bar or whatever. And I literally sat down. Okay. Now, there's a group of 2 women here sitting next to me, and then a couple minutes later, another girl sat next to me here. Now, I was actually started talking with these women, and then I started talking with this girl over here, and where I was kind of talking to these 2 girls, but then the conversation just naturally went longer with this particular girl. It was about 30 minutes into that conversation, and because I had done everything right, which means, teasing, playful banter, escalating things romantically and sexually, in about 30 minutes, we kissed. Okay? Now, for some of you guys out there, you're like, how can you kiss a stranger in 30 minutes? Well, you could even do it sooner if you do things right, and if the context is correct. That happened to me actually in New York, but that's for a different topic for a different video. But like I said, in 30 minutes we kissed. Okay, now you're wondering how that happens. Like I said, because I wasn't just sitting there friendly conversing. I was teasing her. I was being very playful. I was even confronting her on some things, so there was some sexual tension. These are things that you have to inject into the conversation in order to create that vibe. If I was just smiling and nodding along and being Mr. Agreeable, talking about safe topics like, oh, how's your work going? Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, cool. How's that going? What are you doing here this week on the trip? Okay. There's no energy to that. There's no playfulness to it. That doesn't spike her arousals in any way, shape, or form. You might be able to start there just to break the ice, but you can't stay there. Okay, you have to take that and build it up further. Be a little more playful, tease. Maybe you touch, break the touch barrier. All those kinds of things that are absolutely necessary to then take it to that next level. Now, again, I'm not downplaying myself, but there are men who are much taller than I am, much more attractive than I am, much more ripped than I am, much more chiseled jaw than I am. Okay, but I can't change my height, and nobody else can either. I can change my physique. I can change, hair type, facial hair, things like that. But to a certain extent, the way you look is the way that you look. Now, there are going to be women out there who are attracted to the way that you look, and there are going to be women who are not attracted to the way that you look. I have no idea what they're going to be thinking, so I don't think about that. All I do is think about how can I build rapport with banter, with my ability to converse, with my ability to playfully tease, escalate, flirt, sexual innuendos, things like that. Just have a good time. Get her to respond emotionally, get her to laugh, chuckle, be a little bit outraged by some crazy thing that you say, right? This is an essential element, especially when you're just out in the world meeting women for the first time. It's a cold approach. You meet them at a bar, a restaurant, at a nightclub, a dance floor, all these different things. You have to be able to seize that moment and build those things into that conversation. Okay. So again, just to address this gentleman's comment is if he's doing the approach, but he's just not getting anywhere, then he's missing some very critical piece. And in my opinion, when I look at this, it is like he says, he doesn't flirt too much. Again, bad move. You got to be able to be more playful, flirt, and escalate that. If you're not, it's just going to stay very flat and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So if you're a guy out there who's like, you know what, gosh, I have that same problem. I just cannot figure out how to escalate and flirt and do all of this kind of fun stuff. Click that link down below this video. That's a link for you to book a one-on-one call with me. It's a free consultation call, just kind of so I can hear about where you're at, where you're getting stuck, what's been holding you back. And if it seems like it'd be a good fit for you and I to work together, I will walk you through how my coaching program works. We can get you signed up and get you going right away so you can start to change these things around and really understand what you're doing wrong and start doing the things that will get you the results that you actually are looking for. All right? So that does it for this video. I will see you in the next one.